Welcome to the Theater of Others podcast. My name is Adam Marple, and I'm the co-artistic director of the Theater of Others. With the COVID-19 pandemic forcing a shutdown and reevaluation of space and gathering, we at the Theater of Others are thinking about what stories we need and how best we can share them. We believe space is psychology, and it informs the way in which an audience interacts and reacts to what is presented to them. We create uniquely theatrical events in bespoke sensory performance spaces crafted to encourage curiosity and grant the audience permission to commune with the play. Now that space has moved online, how can we encourage interaction and action amongst an audience virtually? The Theater of Others produces plays that both welcome and challenge the audience. We are committed to international collaboration and are a laboratory that helps artists grow through intensive study of their craft. The Theater of Others creates a shared community of artists and audiences for the purpose of exploring the most profound issues of our lives and times. We believe the play watches the audience. The audience is necessary, and they are witness to what happens. And you get to be witness to us making that happen. The purpose of this podcast is to open up our process and let you in. We're peeling back the curtain, so to speak, and encouraging you to follow along, to ponder, prod, and question, to join us and criticize us if need be. Being a witness is no passive task, and it requires much from you. Are you up for the journey? On the podcast today from Melbourne, Australia, are co-artistic directors Budi Miller and myself in Cairo, Egypt. This podcast contains explicit language.
Hi, Adam.
Hi, Budi.
How you going?
I'm doing well. How are you? I know. I can feel it. I can feel it.
I have these Apple products that I'm not happy with.
You have a bone to pick with Apple.
I have a bone to pick with Apple.
Mm-hmm.
I got these beautiful new earpods that cost exorbitant amounts of money, and they don't work properly.
Yes.
They're not working the way I use them.
Yes. They're not doing all the things
I'm
you need
not
them to do.
happy.
Yes.
They're not doing all the things I need them to do, and I'm not happy about it. You know what? I'm gonna go home and bite my pillow. I'm already home. Where's my pillow? I want to bite my pillow.
You people are ass faces. I'm gonna go home and bite my pillow.
So what you're telling me is that you're not gonna give me the money, Corky.
Corky,
That's the money
that's
for the whole year, and that's
including
including
the
swimming.
pool.
There's no swimming in my show. You're just all bastard people. I'm gonna go home and bite my pillow.
Folks, if you have not watched Waiting for Guffman by this point, I don't know why you stick around. Seriously, like 60% of our podcast is just waiting for Guffman
Plagiarized.
quotes. Just plagiarized. It's yes. It's just plagiarized from Waiting for Guffman. This is where we learned.
Yeah.
That was our teacher. Our teacher was Mort Guffman.
Yeah. If you mix the letters up a bit, then you get the word, the letter, the name Blaine, Benali. You mix the words even more, and then you get the name of a place way far away from here. Rhythm, tempo, rhythm. I mean, like, it's just, that's why it's so funny. Is like the actors tempo rhythm is just like it's
phenomenal.
deep.
Yeah.
It's so deep.
I say my lines and then I look away. And then I say my line and then I look away.
So it's that less is more kind of acting, where you say your lines and look away, and you look away, you say your lines and you look away. This is already making me feel better.
There you go. See?
Waiting for government is making me feel better. Thank you, Catherine O'Hara.
Catherine O'Hara is the best. Bless her. Bless her heart.
Thank you, Parker Posey.
But not Parker Posey and Siegel. We've already established that.
Oh, hey. Hell no. Parker Posey, though, in Waiting for Guffman. Amazing. I'm feeling. You know what it is? I'm also feeling like we're one man down.
Chakina is not joining us today. He's working. He's a working artist, so good for him. But
Jakina is like the most sought after sound designer in Australia,
in all of
and
Australia,
he's
yeah,
like 12 years old,
it's
and
true.
like
There are child
everybody
labor
want to work with
laws.
him.
There are child
And there are
labor
child
laws.
labor laws. There are child labor laws. They're working this boy. That poor child.
Poor child.
That
He's got
poor
a
child.
bedtime.
He's
He
got a
has to do his
bedtime.
He's got to do his laundry.
Well, he does his laundry during the show anyway, so he at least gets
That's
that
true.
once
That's
a
true.
week.
That's true.
That's it.
Either
So he's not even gonna do his laundry this week. He's not gonna be
he
able to do
can't
his
do his
laundry
laundry
this
this
week.
week. No, exactly. Well, I mean, just like everyone who listens to this podcast who does theater, they also know when there's a show on, there's no laundry getting done. So,
There's no lot. There's not. You're barely eating.
yeah, exactly. It's,
You know, you're barely getting food, the sustenance you need to even do the show.
mm, yes.
But it's a business, baby.
Yeah.
Acting's a business, baby. It's a
Hmm.
business. And a business.
Indeed. Business. Bidness. Business.
Business.
Oh,
Business.
business. Okay. Excuse me.
Business. Business.
Business.
Business. Yeah. And you gotta take care of yourself. You gotta pay your gas bill.
Hmm. TCB. Take care of business.
TCB. And it's cold. It's cold up in here.
Is it?
It's so cold, Adam.
Is it the coldest
It's
house in Australia?
it's the coldest house in Australia. My
That's so sad.
hands are cold. But this is this but the I've set this room up so that it's like a it's the Bikram room.
Okay. Great.
Mm.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
So I can do my yoga.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel
Mm-hmm.
my hands. I can feel my feet. I can
Excellent.
feel like a civilized human being in
Excellent.
a first world country where there's a semblance of central heating. So in my studio, I have
Yeah.
heating in my studio.
Great. Wonderful.
Yes. Well, it's just one of those things. It's just one of those things, and then
Just one of
I'm
those things.
being ambiguous because I'm trying to be culturally sensitive
Oh yeah.
because I'm not a racist.
No, I don't know. I don't know what you would be referring to. Who in your house would you be referring to as
I
to?
am not a racist. I'm not a
Mm-mm.
racist. I'm married to an Asian. I'm married to an Asian man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I am. I do Asian practices,
Mm-hmm.
pedagogies. I have Asian pedagogies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, my,
All my pedagogies are Asian.
my, yeah, I was like, Malika was like, she was like, I was like, Malika, you have to listen to the podcast. It's so silly. She's like, I love how you like tell us you're not racist, but then you immediately go, and all my pedagogies are all my pedagogies are Asian. All my
Yeah.
Asian pedagogies. Um, some of my best friends are Asian. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, my second life is in Asia.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love I love Asian pedagogies. They're so exotic.
Well, at least we're using the A word, not the O word.
Well, that you know what's interesting here. O is actually used as it's an acceptable
What
academic term.
is that? Is it
Yeah.
appropriate?
Yes, here it is. It's
Hmm.
Occidentalism and Orientalism. So we're talking
Hmm.
about Oriental art, we're talking about Oriental architecture. But the first week that I was here and I was hearing them saying that, I was just like, shh, don't say that out. You can't say that.
Yeah, but
But
it's not
yeah,
Asia.
it is the continent of Asia, though.
Okay, but then
I mean,
so
where does
how?
Asia end?
Okay,
It's
so
but when
can you look
when
up?
they're
Can what does Miss
Miss
Webster say?
Merriam-Webster, Miss Merriam-Webster
Yeah,
say,
what does Miss
okay,
Miriam say about Oriental?
all right. of, relating to, or situated in the Orient, which basically is just east. But east of what? Of course,
Is
is
that
the
what is that what Miss Miriam said? Which
no.
basically
She's
is just
no,
east.
no, no, no. Okay,
Damn,
so
girl,
I'll read.
she done got real colloquial.
It actually says snap your hands and
Snap your
yeah. So
two pops up.
mhm. Okay, I'll read the whole thing. Of, relating to, or situated in the Orient, Eastern. Of, relating to, or coming from Asia, and especially Eastern Asia. Interesting why we'd use it here in Cairo. Oriental. Of, relating to, or constituting the biogeographic region that includes Asia south and southeast of the Himalayas and the Malay archipelago west of Wallace's Line. So
So it's
again,
incorrect. According to Miss
it's
Miriam,
incorrect.
y'all.
It's incorrect for here in Cairo, but it's something that is used. It's very interesting.
But wait a minute. But we're also talking about, we are also, and look, I love you Egyptians, and I give you props, Miss Cairo. But we're also talking about a place that changed its daylight savings time and didn't tell nobody.
Yeah, well, I mean, don't get me started on that. That's literally the
I
bane of
think
my
we need to get
existence
started
right
on it
now.
because people need to know. People need to know. People, inquiring minds need to know what
And
happened
by
now.
and by not letting people know, I'm talking like they didn't let Google Calendar know. So my Google Calendar is all over the place. And it just switched sometime like last Sunday or something, and my calendar still to this day has not updated, which is why I was an hour early to this podcast.
Yeah, you
I
sent
was
me
sitting
that
around and
message and you were like, I sent you a link. I was like, link, link, what
yeah,
link for? Oh, are we podcasting in an hour? You're like, damn time zones.
yeah, yeah.
I would be a mess. So why'd they do that, Adam?
I'm
Tell me, why'd they
I
do it?
have no Why does anybody do daylight savings time at all? Are we an agrarian society that needs a little bit more time, and our children can't go to school when it's too late in the afternoon? I don't understand. I don't understand why anybody does daylight savings time, including the United States. I don't understand why anybody changes and the rest of the world doesn't change, and then everybody just has to go like, well, I guess I'll just. It doesn't make sense. I don't know. Time as a
Well, I
concept
think
is
what
foreign
I
to
love,
me.
that's what I love about it. It's like it just proves that time is just an illusion.
It's a construct. It's
It's
just
conceptual. Yeah,
yes, it is. It absolutely is. I just, I
it's a
just,
man-made device.
it's a man-made device. I don't understand it. It's confusing the f out of me. If I can get if I can get to another week, I'm getting on a plane. I'm going back to the United States, and I understand that time zone, and it'll be okay.
You gonna be America?
I'll be in America exactly.
I'm gonna be in America in a couple weeks too.
Oh my goodness! But unfortunately, we won't be in the same place.
Well, you need to come visit me.
Well, yeah, I know. You come visit me.
I
Hey,
really
you
do.
have
I
family in
do.
Georgia.
I
You have
do.
family in Georgia.
I do need to come to Georgia actually, but I need to see my
Hmm.
mama too in Michigan.
Well, of course. I need to see my mama. That's why I'm coming home.
Yeah, you gotta see your mama. You gotta see your
My
mama.
mom, Mama Nims. I got to see Mama Nims.
Mama Nims.
Mama
What's a
Nims.
mama? What's a mama nim?
You don't know Mama Nim? Mom and them. Mama Nim. I, Booty, I want you to go in the front yard and get Mama Nim. Come over here for supper.
I want you to go in the front yard get mama nim.
Hmm.
Wow. Can you please translate that for our non-binary
why, why would our
men
non
and
binary
women
people not
from
understand?
other parts of the world that have no idea what you're saying, if you're even speaking English?
So our cisgender people can understand what I just said, but our non binary people speak another language? Is that what you're
I
saying?
said men. I said non-binary and men and women.
Okay. Booty, please go into the front yard and get Mom and all of them to come in for lunch. Go to the front yard and get
Oh,
Mom and them for supper.
you want me to go to the front yard and get mama nim
For supper, yeah.
for
Supper's
supper?
up, boy.
Okay.
Supper's up.
Oh, who you call it boy?
Ooh.
You better don't.
That's right. I can't.
And after I don't know, already invited you to the barbecue, you calling black people boy?
I call it. I got nothing. I got nothing.
Yeah. Okay. 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 I didn't mean to silence you. I didn't mean to silence you. You can come back to the podcast, Adam Marple. You can come back to the
Okay,
podcast.
thank you.
But
I don't
people.
I don't see race. I didn't know that you were a black man. So I'm sorry.
Uh,
I don't see race.
well, it's my life body is black as well. So
Mhm. My life body, my aura, and my life
my
body.
my life body, my ether body, my whole being is black.
Mm. I am white and white presenting.
I am the psychological jester of blackness.
Where in the world would you learn that? Please, can you, for those on YouTube, can you show us what the psychological gesture of black is?
So psychological jester of black is this.
Wow. Now, can I do the psychological gesture of black, or is
Let
that
me
off limits
see.
for me?
Let me see. Let me see.
Nah, I'm afraid to
Let me
do it. I'm
see.
afraid. No,
Let me
no,
see it. Let me
never
see your
mind.
psychological.
Never,
Come on.
never mind.
No, come on. Come on. Give me
Nah,
your
I'm good.
psychological gesture.
The
Give me
closest
your
I'm gonna get
psychological
is
gesture.
the closest
Do
I'm
your
gonna
psych.
the closest I'm gonna get is you go, girl.
Come on, come on, girl. Let's see it. Let's see, girl. Let me see. Give me your psychological. Yeah, come on. Give your psychological.
I think that's what you did. I don't know.
That's it. That's
I
it.
don't feel any more black inside or x outside than I did a moment
Black is
ago,
just the
though.
concept. It's a concept.
Okay, it's like time. Great. Yeah.
What what are we talking about? Where would we get this psychological gesture life body thing from? This is so specific.
I feel like he's rolling over in his grave right now, but Mr. Michael Chekhov here. It's-
Oh
yeah.
Lord.
We're in book club land again, folks. As you already know from downloading
Yes.
this thing, we're in book club number 3. We're Michael Chekhov's To the Actor.
Yes, queen.
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
Queen. Yes.
So this was one of my books. This was one of my
It was.
books.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because I know this book like backwards and forwards,
Yeah.
and it's always new when I read it. Every time I
I'll
read it,
tell
I'm
you
like,
what.
oh yeah, I
I,
forgot about how like
I read
together
this
we
book.
were.
I mean, yeah, I read this book in high school and I haven't read it again. And there was nothing in this that I felt familiar with. It was like reading a brand new book that somebody had just given to me that was printed like last year. It doesn't feel
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't feel overly dated. It
Mm-mm.
doesn't feel this that's a not it's a um someone whose mother tongue was not English. It just feels fresh to the work that you could do right now, which was really quite interesting for me to experience this. Just kind of going like, am I had there was a couple times where I was like, I downloaded this and I was like, did I get the right one? Is this the right? Is this some like nope, 1957? Sure it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece, and it is a staple. It should be a staple for every actor who wants to stay in the zone. It's a really great. It's 1953, Adam. You got the
53. Okay,
1957? Yeah, 53.
I got an updated one
Um.
with Yul Brynner introduction. I don't know.
Oh. I have the old. I got the old original. The
Okay.
with the yellow pages. Um. I just want to know. I want your feedback, like, because you know backwards and forwards was your book, and I was quite moved by it,
You
and
were, yeah, yeah.
I want to hear about what was moving you.
I like I said before, like I read this in high school, um, and I thought, okay, cool, neat. It didn't really speak to me at that time, and I'm really quite surprised why it didn't and why I didn't remember it. I had several thoughts. I had many thoughts. Okay, I'm gonna try and break these up because I could just go off on a tangent because I really have lots of thoughts with this. I've highlighted so much of this book. The first thing I thought was, God, this reminds me of Mary Overley's viewpoints. So much of this. is similar things that she is using when she's doing viewpoint stuff. And it's the stuff that it's not so much Anne's viewpoints. It's more the internal work on self. It's more um, the exploration of stuff. Like, 9 viewpoint stuff. That's get it out there, get work done. A little bit of exploration, but quick work. Mary's viewpoints, though, it's more exploration of artist and self. And so a lot of the stuff the early on chapters, really reminds me of that. And I think that's really quite interesting. And I'd love to explore that when we work together next, when we're in Bali, that kind of overlap of those things.
So what were the things?
Um,
What were the specific things that made you think of Mary Overly specifically?
that so much of it is um, an investigation. So much of it is in the imaginative land. I mean, it's something else I was thinking of like if you had to like I mean, kind of it's reductive, but if you had to actually kind of describe the main acting methodologies that are out there, you could probably put it into a sentence like, you know, Meisner is instinct and repetition, right? We understand like whatever else you want to say about it, like that's the crux of that entire methodology is say exactly what you want to say when you want to say it, and it's based out of repetition, right? And then method is emotion memory and sense memory kind of things, right? That's again, it's reductive. Stella Adler seems to be more textual based. It's more about the script analysis and finding the character from that. And I thought about this and I thought it's so based in the imagination. I mean, all acting is imagination, but this is absolutely, and he spends time training the imagination. He spends time um, reifying and making the imagination something that's ineffable, tangible. And I love that kind of the last couple chapters where he talks about the intangible tangibles and kind of saying that the imagination is something that can be trained. The imagination is something that can be taken to the gym. The imagination is something that um, everyone has, but not everybody uses, and not everybody knows how to use. And so, if I had to break down what I think Chekhov is, it's just imagination, pure, unadulterated, not even unadulterated imagination. And I was kind of struck that um, psychological gesture is like very small part of this work,
In this
almost
book, in
like
this book, it is. Yeah.
in this book, yeah. But like what he is known for,
Hmm.
it's it's like the least of it. It's the thing that like I don't know why that became the famous thing when everything else in here is really quite interesting.
I mean, he
And
covers the whole terrain of what it is to be an actor.
yeah,
He's an actor's
yeah.
actor, you know,
Not just actor. As a
and directors.
director, I found
Yeah.
lots of great things. I mean, the whole chapter on atmospheres
Yeah.
and script. I mean, even the script analysis. Like,
Hmm.
I actually this has been one of the kind of better directing books that I've read in a while
Hmm.
in terms of just like way to look at it and really
And I
again
mean,
atmosphere
if
is
you
fantastic.
want to do King Lear, you have to read this book if you want to do King Lear.
Oh, God, I'm not going to say that I skimmed the King Lear section, but I
He
skimmed the
breaks
King Lear
that
section.
whole play
God,
down.
he could
I
have
mean,
done without that probably, but
I know
I got a little
it's it
tired of
was,
that.
but I think I think what the reason why he did it is to just show how applicable and specific the
Yeah,
work is,
yeah,
as
yeah, yeah,
opposed to being a general idea of like opening up the imagination and playing with the imagination. He also
yeah.
he also has a huge influence from um, anthroposophism, Rudolf Steiner,
Mm,
and that was what brought him into his spiritual practice. Steiner was a clairvoyant and he was inspired by Eastern practices, but he also brought in his Christianity and his clairvoyancy and his ability to read human beings and human nature, and be connected to the nature as well. That's where you get your Steiner schools from. But I think for me, at this particular time of the writing of the book, you can see that he's curious about it, but doesn't quite know how to fully integrate it.
yeah. I think it's interesting that of course all the kind of I don't want to say the mysticism, but let me just use that word for now, and you'll know what I mean when I say this. All the kind of the mysticism uh, that was trying to be incorporated, trying to be used, trying to be explored in Russia, all got excised, of course, because it didn't fit the state idea of what theater should be. So you don't know about your Sulorjitskys, you don't know about your Gurdjieffs, you don't know about these things that they were exploring and touching, and maybe it was a little bit too much, but that the fact that that Chekhov got out, Chekhov didn't end up behind the Iron Curtain. He got out and it was in the America, and you can see him kind of going like, I'm curious about this. Whereas, Meyerhold, we got nothing. Sulorjitsky, we got nothing. Grotowski finds something later on, but it's one of those things that, like, what would have been like if that hadn't happened? What would acting have skipped, a quarter of a century, and would we have gotten that earlier on, or was it stunted? It's just curious to kind of
Well, it's
see what that
interesting
inspiration.
because you know how much I love Sudozitsky. I share a gene with the Sudozitsky, like a spiritual brotherhood with him.
Yeah.
Like so much of his philosophy and journey as a teacher and human being it gives me memories of my who I am,
Mm.
and I'm like, I swear, don't tell me, what am I, a reincarnated Sudozitsky? Because like I'm like, I've had that feeling like in the work, and I've had students respond to me in the same way that they respond to Suler, and he was this. I think we should just do a podcast with Shulazitsky. I want to do a whole podcast with Shulazitsky because I love him.
Well, you had already talked about us talking about individual practitioners, individual methodologies, and things like that. So maybe that's our
And
next
we, yeah.
series.
Well, then also, but we also need to go into symbolism and like, well, I've been trying to. I really want to get into symbolism and expressionism. You were like, no, but it's these movements are what was happening. It's like kind of like when we talk about like the phenomena of Fairview versus the phenomena of slave play versus the phenomena of bringing Alice Childress's work back into the play. Like there were so many transitions that were happening, and people were questioning and playing with things. And I think that the expressionist style is something that is it's quite exciting to revisit because when you're looking at you're looking at what was it, Sophie Treadwell, and what she was doing versus what Brecht was doing, in Germany, and then you go and then you because you have to go into these what was happening at the time. So you have the symbolists that was and symbolism that was happening in Russia, and that was what was making it so spiritual. That's literally why they created the Moscow Art Theater, because they were trying to grapple the spirituality of actors training and how to do symbolist work as opposed to naturalism, right? But then
Mm.
when you go into the kind of political hold that those
Yeah,
kinds of uh, um, deprivation of the spiritual practice
yeah,
has on a community of people, because remember we didn't have television, we just had the theater, and in Russia the theater was a second parliament,
yeah,
and when you're getting people to experience their bodies holistically and move into a realm in which that can't be codified by an institution, it's quite dangerous.
yeah, yeah. So it's interesting then that Chekhov gets out, comes to
Mm.
America, starts training lots of people. I mean, he went to the group theater one summer and trained them in one session. But that he's mostly known for going to Hollywood. He's mostly known for going to L.A. and training film actors. And even, I mean, this is one of the things. Also, is one of the rare opportunities you can
And he
actually
also had
see
Dartington
one
Hall.
of these.
He did Dartington Hall was
Yeah,
where it all began, right? So I
yeah,
but
yeah,
but I think the other thing is, I think the thing that's really, but this is where it gets really like, okay, And this goes into what I always talk about of like it's important to go to the source of where the work comes from.
Mm,
You have so many people, white men specifically at this time period, that were dominating these spaces. And then you had white women as well, but primarily white men dominating these spaces, and how they would um, um, put themselves onto a whole practice that has ancient traditions and it would have a surface understanding of the depth of what they were experiencing, but because they were having a moment outside of their normal everyday theater life or even uh, theater practice. It's but the problem is that when these people were getting enthusiastic about I've been using this word a lot, enthusiasm, because
okay.
I think enthusiasm gets white people in trouble. And I think enthusiasm gets white women in trouble the most because they get
Uh-oh.
really excited about uh, being in the mix, but then the listening just falls to the wayside. And so the enthusiasm, cuts the actual time that it takes for safety, for listening, for change. And I think because so many people, it was almost like it was a cultural thing. They were all rushing to get to the moon. Who's going to get to the moon first?
Mm,
Who's gonna have the acting technique that it's gonna solve all acting technique problems? Who's gonna have the ownership of the best acting teacher on the planet?
mm,
And it's and there are things that Rudolf Steiner did that were quite exciting as well. Like his investigations on human nature were incredible. Like he was like the reason why Americans are so greedy is because they're malnourished. So the very root of greed is malnourishment, which
mm.
is why fast food
Ugh.
is so prevalent in the United States. And it goes into the whole corporate structure. It's like it's fascinating stuff. I'm not saying Rudolf Steiner doesn't have anything to offer because Rudolf Steiner has an incredible, vast amount of knowledge and things to offer. But
Mm,
what I'm curious about is what happens when Rudolf Steiner has to take a seat and let an Asian person take over the whole entire pedagogical process. Not just things that make you excited and enthusiastic about because you're having an experience, but that there's real depth that you have to completely surrender to a whole nother way of moving and adjusting and interacting. That's where I think the revolution could have really happened. But once again, you can't have that. Not when people are trying to rush to the moon, not when there's a cold war going on.
yeah,
Not when there are
exactly.
people that rather go to war and fight for territory. Majority of it doesn't even belong to them. It's
Yeah.
like this. It's quite progressive stuff that we deal with now, especially what our company deals with. We deal with some
Yeah.
really progressive things, and we are not afraid to speak up and say these things and do things about things. And I think Michael Chekhov also had that spirit. But
Yeah.
because culturally there wasn't a space for his kind of investigation to go really where it could possibly go, we get this beautiful book. What I love towards the end of the book where he's like, I'm leaving this as a breadcrumb.
Mm,
Take it, develop it, and do your version.
yeah.
And he's like, this is not a reductive, manual, but this is something to inspire you to take it and develop it. and he had a history of being a beautiful teacher in this space, and just and that's but he also got that from Sulorzinski. He talks so much about Sulorzinski in his other writing. Like he has a whole chapter dedicated to uh to Sulorzinski and
Yeah.
what is the actor and the actor's process. And and it you can feel it in the way that he touches his work as an artist and the way that other artists have been inspired by him and
Mm.
other teachers that have been inspired by him that are taking his work and developing it in their way. I think my biggest challenge are the um the hardcore, like I'll call them stylists, you know, that that are so tied to Michael Chekhov's uh, process that it doesn't radiate anything new,
Mm.
and it's kind of like trying to hold on to the legacy of what it was, but like he wanted it to develop as well, and I find that the pure Michael Chekhov exercises in my body, in my black queer dyslexic body, can only go so far. And when I watch pure Michael Chekhov uh, espoused performances, it's not embodied. It feels a bit pushed, and I feel like the language around it needs to be um, reinvestigated because this concept of radiating, the way that he articulates radiating in the book feels like it's an active thing, but then when he explains what it is, it's a passive
Mm.
thing.
Yeah.
And to call something that passively happens, which I believe it happens passively, because it's because of the deep connection. Radiation is a byproduct, but you can't radiate it. Like I always used to get so frustrated with that concept. It's like radiate the gesture, radiate. What does radiate mean?
Mm.
Breathe into it, send the
Am
energy
I
out,
do I force something? Am I just thinking hard? Like, yeah, it's a
right?
little confusing. The
And even the term psychological gesture, when Per Bra and I used to work together, we investigating that word psychological because a lot of people would get weirded out by the word psychological. So we went to working
Mm.
gesture. You know, when he brought in psychology, it puts people in a particular place.
Yeah.
You know, because essentially it's body first anyway. The
Yeah.
psychology gets revealed from the reflecting on what actually happens. And then I think that just the psychological gesture world is 20th century. You can go deeper than
Yeah.
psychological gesture. Fitzmore's voice work goes deeper than psychological gesture. Pym work goes deeper than psychological gesture.
I like how little intellectual this methodology feels.
Yeah,
Like it's not head driven.
yeah,
It's body driven.
hundred percent.
It feels so embodied, even in the writing of it, which is quite interesting, because a lot of times embodied things don't translate well to describing them. But his description of exercises are actually quite understandable as well, which is quite lovely. Um, yeah, it doesn't feel, even in his long ass section about King Lear. Um, it's still talking about how you have to find it and make sure you're testing it in your body anyway. That you find the
Yeah,
super objective before you find, you know, the objectives, but you got to test it against your body to see is that right. So yeah.
and I think what I love about it is also is that it's a conversation. He's having conversation with other
Mm.
artists.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's probably why you didn't pick it up when when you first started reading it. You were too young to. He was. It was. This is
Oh, for
advanced
sure.
stuff. It's so advanced. What he's
I mean,
talking about
I
is like working actor
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, like, I was reading An Act Prepares at 14 and thinking like, yeah, I know my shit and my shit don't stink. But like, I went through all those books in my teenager years and like, sure, absorbed it and became, really enamored by it, and it changed my life. But of course, these things aren't going to make sense for somebody whose life is this small, has his life experience is that small. Um, so it's really great to go back and look at it again and go, oh yeah, I have been in that situation as an actor, or I've been in that situation as a director, and now I know exactly what he's talking about. Again, I want to get back to the fact that it's one of those he's one of those rare people that you can actually see him work because he's done so much film. He's done a lot of film stuff. And, you know, granted, the films are not great, but the reason he had those films was because all the people in the industry respected him and were just giving him little bit parts so that he had money, so that he could stay in the country, so he could do all those things. And they're crappy films. I mean, they're like, cowboy films, and he's always playing a Russian whatever. That's just a
Yeah,
given. But like, he's in Spellbound by Hitchcock. Like,
yeah, that's the famous one.
there's some good ones in there, but I love that he's just so respected by and loved and appreciated by Hollywood, by actors in Hollywood, um, because they know it works as well, because they are using it and they're understanding it as a working actor, as a jobbing actor to go. I don't have time to rehearse this. I only have time to work on myself. What can I use? What can I do? And it works for them, and it does. It shows.
I'm gonna. I think, I think we also have to look at the time period as well, like on how he articulates things. Because I'm looking at like when he's talking about his movement exercises, for example. Like
Hmm.
culturally, my people dance, right? And
Hmm.
he says, make your movements complete with sufficient strength and moderate tempo. Avoid dancing movements. For me, that's like gaslighting for me, and in a Balinese dancer, it's like the movements in a Balinese dancer is exactly what he wants in a training, right? And so, and how important movement in dance is in my work, and that's
Hmm.
that's really what takes you into that. That's why I keep saying that, like, this is like 20th century. You can go deeper. We are
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
going deeper, and this is why
Yeah.
it's so important to remember that these practitioners are there to inspire us and to
Yeah.
to point us in a direction, but by no means do you need to like hold on to their methodology
Oh,
as like a
no, no, no,
bible. It's
no.
just inspiration,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they're not moving, talking, speaking like we do. They
Mm-mm.
didn't have Twitter.
Thank
They didn't
God.
have instant gratification for a thought or an idea or a passing thought, and it's like there's a whole the brain was different back then.
Yeah.
Social life was different back then. But there's some great inspiration in here just to get the juices flowing and go, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And his formulas for atmospheres is really interesting.
Hmm.
And it's going to be different today because we don't care about things the way that they cared about them. I mean,
Yeah.
we got WAP, for Christ's sakes, as as a as a song that's a groundbreaking song. Really, y'all, it's groundbreaking. I can't even speak now. It's groundbreaking. I love the song, but is it groundbreaking? Lil Kim was doing something much more groundbreaking. And it's like so many people are trying to be, it's I'm the best. And it's once again malnourishment. I
Yeah.
love I love that image of greed being attached to malnourishment. Whatever that means for you. And so many things are being destroyed by malnourishment. Like the AI problem we're having right now is malnourishment.
You mean You need plagiarism machines. It's not AI.
Play
It's plagiarism machine.
the plagiarism machines.
It's a plagiarism machine. It's not. It's not. There's nothing intelligent about it. It's human beings who are programming things to steal from other artists and then create something new. It's a plagiarism machine. Let's be honest. Let's call it what it is.
Wow. Wow. Well, you know we need to have a part two on our AI conversation because
Yeah,
it's getting bigger
because
every day. It's getting
SAG's
bigger.
going to go on strike. Yeah,
Yeah, we're
we're
all
not
going on
just.
strike, y'all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now's the time to upskill. Come to Bali and train. Stay in the
Hmm.
zone. Yeah. Um. And I have another question though, Adam.
Yeah.
Should we go on a break or should we go on a question?
A question. We got a little bit of time for question because I think when we come back, we got to talk about what's our favorite chapter, what we
Well,
liked, what we didn't like.
that was what I was that was where I wanted to go.
Oh,
That's what
okay. Okay.
I was going into that direction. So maybe we should actually have a break now, so we can come back into the nitty gritty. How's that sound?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That sounds good.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
you know, Jakina's not here. And we are desperately missing our boy. We miss you,
We
Jakina.
hope there's. We hope he put some music here. We hope
I
so.
really hope he puts some music here.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen and non-binary conforming individuals, you are listening to the stereo sounds of JDB, Jack David
Maybe.
Burmeister.
Maybe.
Possibly, who knows? Let's pause and see if we get it. Wow, Jakina, you came through. Welcome back.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack. Ooh. So we're back.
Yeah.
Adam,
Yo.
what are your favorite parts of the book? Your favorite bits?
As I mentioned before, I think the chapter on atmospheres. I mean, again, this is just me as a director. So like I perked up in that moment. I it spoke to me and what I am interested in. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to kind of not necessarily put it in my work in my teaching recently, but in just a kind of explaining what should be a known thing and see how it works. Just understanding um, the feeling, the perception of external landscapes and moods and things like that. And I know it's something that we talked about before. Mood spelled backwards is doom, but at the same time, we talked about that with what was it, backwards and forwards, our last book.
Yes, yes.
Um, but we also understand what it feels like to walk into uh, a dark house and feel a presence there.
Yeah.
Again, it's an intangible tangible. There's something there. That's an atmosphere, and that's something that actors can't ignore that, and it can't just be only the designer's job to elucidate that for the audience. That is something that has to be felt and experienced for an actor's point of view, because it will change the body. So I love reading that chapter and going through that and thinking about. I mean, it's probably
Well,
the section that
because
I
you
highlighted
love
the
the
most.
audience. That's your favorite. That's your
Yeah,
favorite subject, right? So
yeah,
he
yeah,
actually gives you tangible things to do for considering the audience contribution to the atmosphere of a performance and how the
yeah,
actor and the design team and directors can interact with the atmospheres that they put the audience in.
yeah. Okay, I'm going to read this. The atmosphere inspires the actor. It unites the audience with the actor as well as the actors with one another. It deepens the perception of the spectator. Two contrasting atmospheres cannot coexist, but individual feelings of the characters, even though they may contrast with the atmosphere, can exist simultaneously with it. The atmosphere is the soul of the performance. Observe atmospheres in life. Imagine the same scene with different atmospheres. Create atmospheres around you without any given circumstances. Move and speak in harmony with whatever atmosphere you create. Imagine suitable circumstances for the atmosphere you have created. Chart and keep a score of the atmospheres you create. Carry out movements with qualities, sensations, feelings. Like
Yeah.
it just it speaks to me. I don't know. It may not speak to anybody else, but it's just especially
Well,
in a book that was supposed to be for an actor. As a director, I just really truly enjoyed that, and I know that actors can get something from that as well. So
I mean, it's the foundation of my work. Everything has an atmosphere with it. What I do. It's like
yeah,
the masks create an atmosphere. The music creates an atmosphere. The atmosphere of how you interact with students. The space that you provide for students. It's like there's always there's a vibe,
yeah,
you know, and that vibration for me is feminine. It's indigenous, it's organic, it's nature, it's in the round. How do you continue to keep that chi ball working? It's like when I say chi ball, that's chi, and it's like
mm,
energetically, like you want to keep that bubble alive.
mm,
And when 'cause you always obviously, like, you often talk about how the audience matters, and I think that's the reason why I love this book so much is he speaks to us as working actors and
yes,
directors and designers. Like, you have to put the play up. Like, he's not conceptually keeping you in class. He was talking about getting it up on its feet and making stuff and
yeah,
interacting with an audience and having a run.
yeah, yeah. I mean, this is not these are like I said, it's not an intellectual exercise. It is not. It's not something that is cherished and meant to be kept for yourself. This is all leading towards something. That
What
something is
other
supposed to be
parts of the
shared.
book?
That's what something is supposed to be seen. I'm flipping through it now. Well, flipping through. This is why I don't like ebooks because of what I'm having to do right now, which is turn manually the
Okay,
pages
well,
like this.
I'll say one of the things I love
Okay.
is creative individuality.
Yeah.
I love creative individuality. It's something that when I learned it, I was like, "Oh my, this is really this is really 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 what it's about." And he talks about you give the same brief to three different artists to
Mm,
paint something, and you're going to get three different versions of that piece
yeah. Yeah.
because of their creative individuality, and that
Hmm.
every actor entering into a space has their own creative individuality. And what I often talk about is the difference between a group and an ensemble.
Mm,
An ensemble is compiled of creative individuals,
yeah.
and we meet each other at whatever level we're at that day. Sometimes people are at a 2, and other times people are at a 10, and we meet each other at those levels because we support the creative individuality. But if we're a group, everyone's trying to get along and be on the same level as the lowest level person. Hashtag institutions. Am I wrong?
No,
Boom,
sadly.
boom. Institutions, they they require us to be normalized. They need us to be normalized. right? They want us to normalize our bodies. They want to standardize us. They want to keep us in a group to maintain at the lowest level person. But I'm looking for creative individuals and creative individuality, both in my classroom, both and with my colleagues. I think that's why you and I get along so well.
I let you be you. You let me be me.
Yes, girl. You go, girl.
You go, girl.
You know what I mean? What's yours? What's your
Mhm.
next one?
Um, it is. Oh, what's the name of it? Composition of the performance. Again, this is the director in
Ooh,
me.
he's
This
speaking
is
your
the director in
language.
me.
He is
Yeah,
speaking your
exactly.
language. Okay, what about
Exactly.
composition? What about composition from his perspective?
Triplicity, polarity, transformations, subdivisions, main and auxiliary climax, accents, rhythmical repetitions, rhythmical waves, and the composition of the character. I mean, there's going to be our not our next book, but okay, my next book is um, is going to be a book by Brian Kulick. It's called oh God, what's the name of the book? I've forgotten the name of the book all of a sudden. It's called The Secret Life of Theater on the Nature and Function of the Theatrical something or other. That's Brian Kulick, and basically, I can't this is why I hate ebooks because I can't see all of it in one thing.
Or something or
It's
other.
called something about something or other. The Secret Life of Theater by Brian Kulick. Anyway, it's my third book, and it's basically kind of saying like this is why theater works and this is how theater works.
Mm,
um and so like he does it here as well: triplicity, polarity, transformations, subdivisions, rhythmical waves. It's all I love that because I was like, oh, this is great because Brian's going to talk about this 2 books from now. So
mm,
I love that. Again, he's talking to an actor as if, I mean, why shouldn't the actor know what the director is doing? Why shouldn't
mm,
the actor know
mm,
what is going on? It can only make the acting better to know the choices that are being made around me, the choices that are being made for me, the choices that are being made in connection with my choices, the connection that's being made with all of that, so that you can also start to go, great, where's my place in this? Where is it that my choices are leading to? Are they lining up with the choices that are being made by the other artists here? And where do they differ? And why should they differ sometimes?
mm.
And what can I look for? Once I have done all the work, what other work can I do? Because the work never ends, folks. The work just keeps getting deeper and wider and more expansive. And why not? Why not
Yeah.
keep learning more and more and more? So I really like that.
I love that. And I think it's one of those things of like the director and the actors and designers need to be at the table together at the top of the
Yeah.
top of the rehearsal process.
Yeah.
Because and we talk about this all the time, and that's what we do as a company. It's like the designer is in the space, in the work from jump. You know,
Yeah.
we're creating worlds together. You know, so composition is a really great way for a company to engage and interact with a piece.
Yeah.
What do you think
I,
of
I, I
what do you think of the different types of performances?
what do you mean? Where? What are you talking about?
Tragedy
Oh, yeah,
versus
yeah, yeah.
comedy versus clown. He talks about
Clown,
clown.
tragedy, comedy, clowning, epic theater, kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I like that as well. I especially like that idea of something following you.
Yes. Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. And then the
Yeah.
clown, it's not something behind you, like with Hamlet. There's always something pursuing him, but with clown, there's a little goblin just kind of like
Yeah.
following you, kind of like that. I love that imagery. Really does something for me. It's really quite nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think once again it comes out of an early version of what clown is today, because clown is much deeper than that today, right?
yeah, yeah. Of course, of
You
course.
know, and that his impulses around it are in the right place. You know,
Yeah,
he's going off of how clowns tantalize. And I love how he talks about how tragedy has that loomingness. There's this thing that you have no control over. And
Yeah.
that's what makes it so tragic. It's like you're always going to end up where you end up, you know.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and and I think it's important because he talks about the different ways in which that an actor is going to have to use their imagination, as opposed to having a one-off way of working with everything. He says tragedy is made easier to play by imagining the presence of some superhuman being. Drama needs a purely human attitude and artistic truth in given circumstances. Comedy requires of the performer four main conditions: stressing a predominant psychological feature of the character, feeling of ease, strong radiant radiations of gay and happy qualities, and quick tempo interdispersed with slow movements. And then four, clowning calls for the presence of gay and humorous superhuman beings. I think that's me, gay and humorous superhuman being. Oh,
Yeah.
I must be a clown.
That if you're not a clown, I don't know what clowning is.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
You go, girl. Okay,
You
so
go, girl.
yeah,
Two snaps for you.
I think you should. I think yours not two snaps for you. I think yours should be two snaps from me. You go, girl. Two snaps from me. One, two.
I'll take those snaps and I'll save them for later.
Oh, that's so nice.
It's yeah.
So,
You're
was
gonna
there
ask me
any
what
part
I
of the
didn't
book?
like?
Yeah, I was to say, what part is the? Are we in consensus on the parts that
Anything
didn't
having to do
work?
with King Lear. Anything having to do with King Lear, can just get rid of. Just the whole section on finding the breakdown of the script from the climaxes and the mini climaxes and the mini
Oh
climaxes and
my!
the sub
Uh,
action.
humana.
Sleep.
You
I
can do
slept through
that
that
in one
chapter.
paragraph. You can do that in one
Yeah, you
paragraph.
really could. You really could. That was that. You don't. You could just skip over that.
And
That was
mine was
too
that
much.
mine were the improvisation stories at the
At
end.
the end, yeah,
Yeah,
I skipped those as well.
I
I
just felt
skipped
like
those
that.
as
I
well.
just felt like how
You,
the first one was so crazy. I was like, "What is happening?"
yeah.
And
You know
now
what?
there's a hamburger, and now it's a beer. It's like
You
what?
know, you know what I thought it was, which is why I was interested for a minute, and then I realized there were like 17 more like this. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, no. So I read the first one. I thought, wow, this is kind of like a it's kind of like a D&D episode. This is like a campaign session right here. Like this is great. I could just read this and then have everybody roll for initiative. But then it was done and there were 17 more and I was like, F this. I'm out. This is too much. This is just too much.
It
Yeah.
was just it just I was actually getting triggered flashbacks from impro. I was like,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
didn't we have experienced this in impro where like you can't okay, how do you how do you how do you document improvisation for someone to improv
Right, exactly.
azation?
I mean, but like, what do I do with that? Like, you have already created the entire scenario. What do I do in that? What is my
What's
role?
improving? What part are you improving?
You have written a script. You have written a
Exactly.
script, sir. Congratulations. This is a really interesting play. Done.
Bravo.
Yeah,
Bravo.
yeah,
Yeah, I like it's almost like I have to get everything in this book because if I don't get everything in this book and die, then then these beautiful improvisations that I saw will
yeah.
never ever be remembered again. That's the best part about improvisation. You gotta let it disappear.
Yeah, it's not codified. You can't capture it. It's no longer improv.
Yeah,
All right. I want you to improvise this story that I've written exactly as I've written it.
yeah,
Not improv, sir. Not
yeah,
improv.
yeah. One part that I did love that I forgot to say was when he talks about his relationship to Stanislavski.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's pretty pimp. He
At the end
doesn't
there, yeah,
he doesn't like he doesn't blow smoke up Stanislavski's ass like so many other oh, the greatest of the greatest. Like he was like, yeah, I learned more from Sudozitsky and Vakhtangov, but what I did learn from Stanislavski, I still use to today.
yeah. Organize and write down your thoughts concerning the technique of acting, Stanislavski said to me. It is your duty and the duty of everyone who loves the theater and looks devotedly into its future. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, and that's telling all y'all to write it down, y'all. Write it down. If it never gets published, it might get published after you die in your memoirs.
Yeah.
We found his memoirs. That bitch was fierce. I wish she would have put this on stage. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be that girl. You don't want to be that girl.
What's happening right now? Are you quoting something?
I'm having an improvisation that I want to
Oh,
be
okay.
documented on the podcast.
Write that down. Write that down. Okay. All right.
So I think it's time for provocations.
Okay. We're gonna rate this. How we always rate it.
Ooh. Okay, Jakina wants us to do it at the exact same time.
Oh, okay. All right.
So we're doing overall, or what was it, overall contribution, and then
Yeah. Individual
relevance
chapter.
of
I don't know.
what are the categories?
I have no idea. I
Overall
can't remember.
contribution
Okay.
to the
Yes.
community at
To
large,
the community. Okay. Great. Yes.
and applicable applicable theories that are relevant today. And then we say our favorites.
Okay.
And it's from 1 to 5. Or is it
Yes.
to 10?
No, it's to 5. It's to 5 for
It's
sure.
from 1 to 5. So
Yes.
overall contribution and context of what he's talking about, 1 to 5. Ready? We'll go in 3, 2, 1. 4.8.
4.5. Okay. Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad. Okay.
Not bad.
So
Yeah.
4.8, 4.5. Okay. Uh applicability, the application, the
You're so
ability
close.
to apply what he's written to what we need to do. Is it applicable?
Okay.
1 to 5. In 3, 2, 1. 4.4.
4.5. Okay.
Deadly. Okay, so what is your favorite chapter or chapter subjects?
Atmosphere. I really enjoyed atmosphere. I enjoyed it more than the composition chapter. So, um, I that's something that I'm going to start thinking about and using more in my work.
Mine was, we didn't even talk about it.
Wow, it really meant a lot to you then.
Well, because it's embedded in creative individuality, but also the higher I,
Mm, yeah. Okay.
right? But it's that the higher I is embedded in creative individuality, because you can't connect to the higher I, the higher sense of self, something greater than yourself, if you don't have your creative individuality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, what's the next book we're going to read?
The next book is Anne Bogart's A Director Prepares.
Ooh la la,
So,
classic, another classic.
so this book backwards and forwards. I know A Director Prepares backwards and forwards now. So
Mm,
I look forward to reading it again. I read it every single year, but I look forward to looking at it with different eyes. I'm not I'm
fabulous.
not teaching viewpoints, and I'm not using this for anything else other than enjoyment again.
Ooh.
So
So, what are your provocations?
get out there and read. Look at this book. Investigate this work.
Yeah, that's my provocation as
Spend
well.
some time.
Join
Yeah,
the book club. If you haven't read the two books we've already read, get on it. You have a chance to
exactly.
join on to the next book club
We're only a quarter
submission.
of the way through. Yeah, we're only a quarter of the way through.
Are we only a quarter of the way?
Um,
How many books are we reading?
this is number 3. So we've moved in past quarter way mark. We're reading 8 books.
Wow, we must be readers.
We are
But
we are readers.
reading is fundamental. The
Mm.
reading rainbow.
Butterflies in the sky. I can go twice as high. Take a look. It's in a book. A reading rainbow.
Reading rainbow. I can do anything. Just take a look. It's in a book. The reading rainbow. The reading rainbow.
It's not reading rainbow without LeVar Burton. So don't even try and reboot
No,
that shit
and
without
it
him.
is not Star
No.
Trek without LeVar Burton. Oh, and it
It's,
is not
yeah.
Kunta Kinte without LeVar Burton. Oh, Adam.
I don't think it's Jeopardy without LeVar Burton. But them be fighting words for some people.
Oh,
So
dim, be them fighting words.
yeah.
How we gonna know these people are reading these books?
How we gonna know?
How we
We
gonna
gonna
know?
know they're gonna go to
They
Speak
gonna go
Pipe.
do?
We gonna know they gonna go. We gonna know they gonna go to speakpipe.com/theater of others. Again, speakpipe.com/theater of others. Theater with an
Mm,
R-E, theater of others, all one word. Leave them a 90-second voice message there. We'll be happy to play it on air. We'd love to hear how you are interacting with these books and the thoughts that it's bringing up. If the 90 seconds is not long enough for you, you can send an email to
mm-hmm.
podcast@theaterofothers.com. Again, we'll be so ecstatic to read and find what you're experiencing from the book club or from any of our podcasts, actually. And
Yes, it's true.
of course, we are also on Instagram, Facebook,
We're on the
and
gram,
our
y'all.
website. And there's plenty of ways to get in touch with us. And as we have these book club things, as we have our grad school series, as we
Mm.
have burning topics that come up like AI,
Burn
you
like
need to
fire,
stay on top
baby.
of that. The only way you're going to know we talk about it is to do what, Budi?
You need to subscribe, 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 subscribe. We come
That's
to
right.
your
Subscribe 5
inbox
times.
er
That's right.
week.
Yeah.
But you gonna them do is you gonna them subscribe
Mom and
him.
them.
How many them
Get your
them
mom and them.
subscribe?
Get your mom and them to subscribe as
Get
well.
your mom and them subscribe in.
Go out in
Get
the
your
front
mom and them.
yard. Go out in the front yard there. Get your mom and them subscribe to the podcast. You hear?
And if you really like us, you can do just like my Uber driver does. How does he say it, Adam? How does he say it in Georgia?
You give me a 5 star, I give you 5 star there. You give 5 star, I give you 5 star too there.
You give me 5 stars, I give you 5 stars. It's a win game. It's a win game. And if you really like us, you could leave us a comment. Well, what would a comment be like from Georgia, Adam?
Ooh wee. Them boys sure are on fire. I don't know. I'm sorry, Georgia. I apologize to
But
all my southern
no,
brethren.
it's about to say it's not appropriating if you're from there.
everybody from the South who made it out, we all know that we dropped our Southern accents, and here I am just doing injustice to all of us. I am so sorry.
Oh, you're not sorry. You are not sorry. Sorry, not sorry is what you are. You are sorry, not sorry.
Oh, bless his heart. Bless his heart. Bless his heart. What if I just started doing the podcast in a Southern accent from now on?
Oh my
Just
God.
out of nowhere, just all of
Yes.
a sudden, I adopt a new identity. I go back
Yes.
to my Southern roots, and it's
Ugh.
just
I would love that. I would love that. We would get nothing done because I'd have you just talking the whole time.
right, exactly.
I'd be like,
Yeah.
how would you pronounce that, Adam?
Oh, we're gonna fry some catfish and some old tonight. I love that. I love listening to my family, and it's like, what is that? What's that word? I don't know that word. That's a
I'm
funny
gonna have
word.
you read some Shakespeare. It's gonna sound really good.
Yeah, you want a biscuit?
You want a biscuit? Biscuit.
He that shall live this day and see old age will yearly on this vigil feast his neighbors and say, tomorrow's St. Crispin's Day.
Yes. You go, girl.
You go, girl. Yes, queen.
Yes, queen. And I give that 2 snaps up.
2 snaps from me.
2 snaps for me. That's a 2 snaps for me. It's a yes for me, and it's 2 snaps up. Oh, Adam,
God.
I love you so much. I love you so
I love
much.
you too. I love you too. See, you're in a better mood now, aren't you?
Oh, so much better. Who needs headphones? Who needs them? Who needs Apple?
Who need them headphones?
Who need them?
No Apple.
Who need them? All I know is around here, you can't trust none of these bitches because they will stab you in the back.
The back.
Apple. Mm-hmm.
God.
And for y'all, we will be in your inbox week next week. Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Theater Brothers podcast. Make sure to visit our website, theaterbrothers.org, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. A special thank you to Purple Planet for the music you've heard. The Theater Brothers creates a shared community of artists and audiences for the purposes of exploring the most profound issues of our lives and times. We believe the play watches the audience. The audience is necessary, and they are witness to what happens. And you get to be witness to us making that happen. The purpose of this podcast is to open up our process and let you in. We're peeling back the curtain, so to speak, and encouraging you to follow along, to ponder, prod, and question. To join us and criticize us if need be. Being a witness is no passive task and requires much from you. Are you up for the journey? Be sure to tune in next week for our next journey.